The question really is, who decides how much federal funding public schools get in Seattle, where it's already been allocated? The school district or Elon Musk or Congress? And I think Congress has been pretty clear that the purse lies here. We pass our appropriations bills. We expect those programs to come. So I want to ask you, what specific actions will you take to implement the ESSA law? I'm not looking for an exhaustive list, but can you name a couple of the requirements that are in that law that you will make sure are implemented?
Well, Senator, thank you. And I would look forward to working with you in the committee, understanding more about the ESSA laws.
Do you know what the requirements are? Do you know about the requirements for targeted support improvement schools or the annual report card requirement? Can you name any of the requirements?
Yes, I have read through ESSA, and I do know it's very interesting. It's how I really got into education in the first place, was when No Child Left Behind was in place.
But there are no requirements that you can tell me right now that you will make sure, as Secretary of Education, you will implement?
No, I want to study it further and get back to you with that, and I'll be happy to do that.
What we just watched was a moment that should concern every parent, every student, and frankly, every American who believes in the rule of law and accountable government. Senator Patty Murray, a Democrat who spent decades fighting for education and working families, asked a simple, essential question: who's really running the Department of Education right now? And the nominee, Linda McMahon, couldn't answer it.
Thank you, Ms. McMahon. Elon Musk's Doge staffers have reportedly set up camp at the Department of Education. They've already been given access to highly sensitive student data and have already started holding back money that Congress decided on a bipartisan basis was needed to help our schools and students. We're also hearing, as you know, about an executive order coming any day that will seek to dismantle the Department of Education. These are bipartisan laws. You indicated that you understood that Congress has passed these laws, but a lot of turmoil is happening. You heard it from my colleague just asking that question now. So I want to ask you, if confirmed, do you commit to getting every dollar we have invested in our students and schools out to them?
Well, the appropriated dollars and those monies that are passed by Congress, yes. I have no issue, however, with the fact, and I believe the American people spoke loudly in the election last November to say that they want to look at waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. So Doge, there are a couple of implants at the Department of Education, as there are with agencies throughout the district, and they're doing an audit.
Right, I understand an audit, but when Congress appropriates money, it is the administration's responsibility to put that out as directed by Congress, who has the power of the purse. So what will you do if the president or Elon Musk tells you not to spend money Congress has appropriated to you?
We will certainly expend those dollars that Congress has passed, but I do think it is worthwhile to take a look at the programs before money goes out the door. It's much easier. It is much easier to stop the money as it's going out the door than it is to claw it back.
The process by law is that you look at that, you make recommendations to Congress, and we implement those laws. So, the question really is, who decides how much federal funding public schools get in Seattle, where it's already been allocated? The school district or Elon Musk or Congress? And I think Congress has been pretty clear that the purse lies here. We pass our appropriations bills. We expect those programs to come. If you have input, if you have programs you have looked at that you believe are not effective, then it is your job to come to us, explain why, and get the support for that. Let me move on. Ms. Mann, I believe that our nation's students, families, and taxpayers do want true accountability. They do want improvement in our schools. Back in 2015, Congress came together in a bipartisan way to replace the No Child Left Behind Act with the new law, Every Student Succeeds Act. That was a bill I was very proud to negotiate with my Republican counterpart on this committee, passed it into law. It gives states more flexibility in using their federal education funds. It eliminated those one-size-fits-all mandates that everyone hated, and it established some really strong federal guardrails to hold states and schools accountable. I believe that the Department of Education must do more to implement that law. Right now, less than 42% of our schools identified for comprehensive support and improvement, or CSI as we call it, had a plan that met all the requirements of that law. And 1 in 5 schools' plans included practices we know are ineffective. National assessment results, as you well know, released a few weeks ago, show that our lowest performing students continue to fall furthest behind. So I want to ask you, what specific actions will you take to implement the ESSA law? I'm not looking for an exhaustive list, but can you name a couple of the requirements that are in that law that you will make sure are implemented?
Well, Senator, thank you, and I would look forward to working with you in the committee, understanding more about the ESSA laws.
Do you know what the requirements are? Do you know about the requirements for targeted support improvement schools or the annual report card requirement? Can you name any of the requirements?
Yes,
that are
I
in
have.
that?
I have read through ESSA, and I do know it's very interesting. It's how I really got into education in the first place, was when No Child Left Behind was in place.
But there are no requirements that you can tell me right now that you will make sure, as Secretary of Education, you will implement?
No, I want to study it further and get back to you with that, and I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. Well, let me ask one last question. As I mentioned, Doge staff have been given access in the Department of Education to personal information of students and families, like their Social Security numbers and their driver's license numbers and their date of birth, what college they're enrolled in. I know that the access has been temporarily paused due to litigation, but there is a real potential for that kind of information to be abused or for students' privacy to be placed in jeopardy if the courts end up ruling against the students. And we know that Doge could use that highly personal information to then target students and target their families or cut off access to Pell Grants for students at college that someone perceives opposes maybe President Trump policy. So I want to ask you, do you believe that Doge employees should have access to private student data?
It is my understanding that Doge employees have been onboarded as employees of the Department of Education, and therefore they operate under the restraints of utilizing access of information, and they are constrained by that.
That is not our understanding, and I have to tell
That's
you,
my
it's
understanding.
deeply concerning that we have Doge staffers, we don't know who they are, they're not held accountable, getting access to students' private information. I think that should frighten everyone.
Well, again, I'm not there
Thank you,
yet.
Madam Chair.
So I'm not there yet, but it is my understanding that they are onboarded fully
I hope
employees.
if you do get there that you make sure that student private information is not given to someone who's no idea what they have, or we have no idea how they're using it. Thank you.
Let's take this step by step, because what's happening here isn't just another DC squabble. It's a test of whether our government still follows the laws that we, through Congress, put in place. Senator Murray laid it out clearly. Elon Musk's so-called Doge team, unelected, unconfirmed, and unaccountable, has reportedly set up camp inside the Department of Education. These people aren't civil servants, they're private allies of a billionaire with political influence. And yet, they've allegedly been given access to some of the most sensitive data in the country: student records, social security numbers, even financial aid information. Think about that. Your child's private data, sitting in a government database, could now be accessible to outside actors with no oversight and no legal mandate. This isn't reform, it's infiltration. When Senator Murray pressed McMahon on a basic commitment, would she ensure that every dollar Congress appropriated for schools actually reaches students, McMahon dodged. She said she'd follow appropriated dollars, but also talked about stopping money before it goes out the door. That's not how democracy works. Congress controls the purse, not the White House, not Elon Musk, and certainly not some unofficial task force. And here's the bigger issue. McMahon seemed unable or unwilling to name a single legal requirement under the Every Student Succeeds Act, the very law she'd be responsible for enforcing. That's not a small oversight, that's a flashing red light. Because the ESSA law, passed with bipartisan support, was designed to fix the mistakes of No Child Left Behind. It gives states flexibility while ensuring accountability. It requires clear improvement plans for struggling schools. It mandates annual public reporting so parents know if their schools are actually helping their kids. These aren't optional ideas, they're the law. And yet, when asked to name one requirement she'd uphold, one promise to families, McMahon couldn't. She said she'd need to study it further. Let's be honest, that's not a lack of information. That's a lack of preparation, a lack of transparency, and a lack of respect for the public trust that comes with running a federal department. Now, Senator Murray went one step further, and this is where the stakes get even higher. She warned that these Doge staffers have been temporarily blocked from accessing student data only because of ongoing litigation. If the courts rule the other way, those private contractors could once again gain access to information that could be used for political targeting, data mining, or retaliation. Imagine a world where a federal department could use your college enrollment, your aid status, or even your social media posts to decide whether you deserve help paying for school. That's not democracy. That's surveillance for profit and politics. From a democratic perspective, what Patty Murray is doing here isn't obstruction, it's protection. Protection of the law, of privacy, and of a core principle that should transcend politics. Government must serve the people, not the powerful. And let's not ignore the symbolism. The Department of Education was created to level the playing field, to ensure every child, no matter their zip code, has a fair shot. Undermining it or dismantling it, as this rumored executive order might attempt, would be a betrayal of that mission. It would send us backward toward a time when only the wealthy had access to quality education and the rest were left behind. What makes this hearing powerful is that it pulls the curtain back on a growing trend, the attempt to replace expertise with ideology and law with loyalty. Linda McMahon wasn't just unprepared. She represented a mindset that says governance can be winged, improvised, and dictated by private influence. Democrats like Patty Murray are standing in that gap, asking hard, necessary questions, not because it's politically convenient, but because it's what public service is supposed to look like. This isn't about partisan point scoring. It's about whether your kids' data, your tax dollars, and your children's future are being protected or handed over to people who see government as just another tech experiment. And here's what viewers can take away. Civic vigilance matters. Congress must reassert its power of the purse. The public must demand transparency on who's inside federal agencies. And voters must remember who stands up for accountability when it counts.